somebody who would want to dedicate music. Wolfman came in and he did probably 5 or 10% of what you hear him doing is newly recorded, but most of it's from real sessions that Wolfman had already done. When you finally meet him, it's a little like the moment at the end of The Wizard of Oz when Toto pulls the curtain aside and you see that a voice that came from everywhere and seemed to know everything and control everything. After all, it's just a little man twirling some dials in a secret control booth.
Have a popsicle. The icebox just broke down and melting all over the place. You want one?
We had written the scene for Wolfman where Rick visits him. George called. He said, I think we can talk Wolfman into doing it, but if you would visit him at the station. And the station happened to be about 3 blocks from where we were living. So we drove to visit Wolfman. It was exactly like in the movie where Rick visits Wolfman. He was on the air and we came in and we gave him the scene. When he read it, he was so moved. He said, this is absolutely wonderful. I'm dying to do this. So for me, it was like meeting an icon. I mean, we had grown up with Wolfman Jack, and then we drove 3 blocks back home.
That's empowering for Kurt, and it's one of the things that allows him, kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, to leave this place and go on to his greater destiny in the world outside. And interestingly, he's the only person to see Wolfman. Of all of the 4 guys, he's the only one to actually meet the Wolfman, and he's the only one to leave. In those days, which is 1962, when the film is supposed to be happening, you weren't allowed to have personalized license plates. You got whatever they gave you, and at that time there were 3 letters and 3 digits on a California license plate. Nonetheless, George wanted to have something that indicated the existence of his previous film, and so if you look, you'll see John's car. The license plate of John's car is THX 138.
I remember in a night scene we were shooting on the street in Graffiti that there was a theater in the background with the marquee saying Dementia 13.
Which is Francis Coppola's first film.
It's an issue of period, what would have been playing, and George gave me the honor of putting my movie up on the marquee.
I was told that it's very important to get it in a frame, and I remember also that it didn't fit the frame exactly, so I had to get some crazy lower angle with a car in the foreground so we could see it.
So there are these little inside references to these 2 previous films.
The crash at the end of the movie, we'd used a car that had been in 2-lane blacktop, and it had been all sort of fixed up, and it had all kinds of anti-roll bars and been lowered and everything. It was really hard to roll it.
And we always had to shoot it at dawn, so it was a magic hour shot. We had only 1 chance, 1 take each time we tried. I think the first time the car went off the road and didn't roll.
So I just took the car out and we tipped it over and I shot the scenes, and we tipped over we had a second car that was all gutted, and we blew it up, and I shot the whole ending without the piece where the car actually spins and rolls. So I came back with a second stuntman about 2 weeks later, and we tried to shoot it again. He couldn't roll it. And then we came back again. I think we came back almost 4 or 5 times before we finally were able to roll that car. Actually just get the shot of it tumbling over.
The final scene of the movie was supposed to be shot on another night, and Ron Howard and myself had worked all night, and they had released us, and we were getting dressed, and we were in our street clothes.
And then all of a sudden, they said, okay, you just gotta get out there.
Get back into your costumes. We're gonna shoot the last scene now because we're having trouble with the stunt, and we have to do it this way.
I'd never been involved in anything shot in that sort of docu-style. It was exhilarating.
And Harrison and I just said, we'll begin the scene by, I'll be hysterical. I think George said, be hysterical, Cindy, which was not difficult to do at this point. And I was hitting him, and we did the whole scene in 1 with 2 cameras rolling.
Cindy Williams and I just sort of improvised the scene of getting back together and making sure she was all right, and me telling her that I wasn't going to go, and Haskell shot that all handheld out in the field, and we had just a 5-minute window to do it because he needed to catch the light at just the right moment during the dawn. And it was very exciting.
And that was it. It was one take.
I had kind of mixed emotions because here it was this sort of climactic moment for my character in the movie, and it was all started, shot, and finished within about 5 or 6 minutes. And I thought, wow, how could that be any good? Vincent Minnelli would have taken all day on this.
Oh, that was beautiful, John. Just beautiful. Huh? I was losing, Dan. What?
We didn't know the scene. We hadn't learned it. We weren't supposed to be doing it that night. And they're saying, the sun's just coming up. We got to get out there. We got to do it now. They set up this dolly shot, and Paul and I tried to run the lines, but we didn't remember them. So we just did an improv. And it is a classic kind of acting school improv, that last scene.
Oh, get out of here. Jesus, what a night.
They didn't want me to put anybody at the end of the movie. That was their basic idea, which is it wrecks the movie. And I said, no, it doesn't. It puts the whole thing in perspective.
We thought it was too explicit, but people were absolutely blown away by it.
But every time you take this really strong position about this is really terrible and why do you need something so obvious? And then when the picture became a hit, of course we got all these phone calls. What really made it in the move for me in the movie was the epilogue, and George had been really insistent on the epilogue of wrapping up the people's lives.
And she said, well, if you're going to put the guys there, why don't you put the girls there? I said, well, if you have 8 people at the end of the movie instead of 4 people, it's 2 cards. It's 2 cards, it's twice as long, and it kind of disrupts. You don't. It's like a little explanation point that's at the end of the movie. It isn't a big thing. So for creative reasons, I said, no, this is about these 4 guys.
Well, I thought it would have been interesting to see what happened to the girls too, but it was a choice that was, that George obviously made for a reason, and I think that reason was that it smacked of the times.
Ultimately, it's really a movie about 2 guys, Kurt and Steve. One goes, the other stays.
The fact that I knew that Steve was going to wind up being an insurance salesman and stay there definitely informed my performance. This was not an entirely adventuresome person.
It was always part of the idea. So when we were shooting it, I certainly knew that that's where this guy would end up. And that, to me, was an important part of that character.